And so, unexpectedly, I get a second chance. I begin the process of providing some security around the area where the ball has fallen by moving linemen into position around the ball and attacking nearby elves. The important thing is to throw some tackle zones onto the ball so that if I should fail the pickup, my opponent will find it more difficult to respond in kind, and also to knock away as many of my opponent's tackle zones currently on the ball as possible. I decided against knocking an enemy lineman onto the ball. It might bounce free of the other elf's tackle zone, but could also have bounced right into the second elf's hands. And gutter runner Cluny takes the honour of my second lunge for the ball in this unsightly ruckus. A 2-in-3 pickup. So, once again, Dr. Jones, what was briefly yours is now mine. This done, I supply what protection I can against counterattack by moving gutter runners to lay down a screen from my front and dodge a lineman, Wormtail, out of the scrimmage line to the rear, though I have to spend a reroll to get him clear. How will the elves respond? The danger in the Wood Elf position, which they now move to guard against, is that I have too many Agility Stat 4 receivers downfield in a position to score, so they mark them with tackle zones to make it harder to hand off or pass to them. It's still very practicable for the Wood Elves to sack my ball carrier, however. They open a gap in my protective screen by blocking with their linemen here, and then use Kara Maud Sith to blitz my gutter runner. The best he can achieve is a defender stumbles result, however, and the gutter runner's dodge skill keeps him on his feet. Indeed, this saves my ball carrier not once this turn, but twice, when lineman Chase Brandstone attempts to block him as well. And since the Deadly Dancers have run out of rerolls for this half, this result has to be accepted. These being vanilla, freshly created teams with few skills on the pitch, those skills that are available will prove particularly important. They round off turn 4 by raising obstacles in the gutter runner's path, first with a catcher here, and then by continuing the strategy of marking my receivers. Also attempting to take one of those receivers out of the equation for next turn with a block from Ruben Ridnick, but once again, dodge skill keeps the gutter runner on his feet. My turn. My carrier is so badly compromised here, I form a scheme to try to score quickly. If I could make it, the Deadly Dancers will probably make it 1-1 before the half ends, but I will receive in the second half and I can go for a slow 2-1 win. There is a gamble involved, but you have to put pudding up for Treacle. And me? I'm a Treacle man. The first task is to clear the area around my ball carrier to open a path to one of my receivers. I therefore make a series of blocks to separate the elven tackle zones. Then I take some basic measures in case of failure and the ball being fumbled, placing rats as obstacles in the way of the elven front and their rear. I choose the gutter runner Cheese Thief as my receiver for the handoff. Let's take a look at the player. He has the speed to score without go-for-it rolls from a distance of 9 squares. But the crucial factor here is his agility stat of 4, which is equal to that of an elf. He has 2 tackle zones on him, and these 2 factors together make for a 50-50 chance of catching the handoff. But since I have a team reroll left over and in hand, it's effectively 75%. Like I said, pudding and treacle. Here's my pudding. And here's my gooey, greasy touchdown treacle, oozing foully from my bloated, sugar-loving lips. And so, the score is 1-0 to Cluny's army. Scrag, my thrower, comes out of the dugout, and my roster is now 11 strong again. The Wood Elves have 4 turns left to score in the first half. The second drive begins. Deployments are identical to those from the kickoff, so let's look at the War Dancer Kara for a while instead. And here's the kick. A brilliant coaching kickoff event lends me a windfall of an extra reroll, and the ball lands in a safe position. And there are the crowd, wondering what the Deadly Dancers are going to do with that ball. Both they and you will see that it comes right down to the wire. Being British, I've never exactly been much of an American football fan. I watch the Super Bowl and that's pretty much it. Images of the game are imprinted on me from my childhood though, because my father had a short-lived fad for gridiron when I was about 4 or 5, after he took business trips to the States. My brother and I remember, picked teams to support when we were just kids, based entirely on how we liked their colours and logo. I picked the Chicago Bears, I remember, a team I never actually knew anything about. Darkenral begins his maneuvers in a similar vein to the first drive, sending a thrower, Ruben, out of my range, where he will soon be given the ball to hold for the time being, securing the ball with a lineman, blitzing on my left hinge with the assistance of a catcher to penetrate my line, and send through potential receivers and disrupt my ability to redeploy to meet wherever his true axis of advance will be. However, his development of this play will be quite different to last time. Since the Deadly Dancers intend to take their time scoring to avoid the possibility of Cluny's army making it 2-1 before the end of the first half, they can feel comfortable farming experience with a safe pass in the rear. The important moves made, there remain a few blocks on the scrimmage line to reduce my resources to react in the next turn, and some movements to guard against my right. Poor Scrag getting stunned by Kara's blitz earlier, by the way. He is having a hard match. I play defensively. The Deadly Dancers have the initiative, and I acknowledge that by a policy of throwing tackle zones onto the forward elves likely to be receivers on my left. Redtooth expends my minty fresh new reroll in an attempt to bring down the most dangerous of these players, the War Dancer, but her block skill keeps her on her feet, at first at least. You'll see that this isn't the last time Redtooth, the supposedly elite storm vermin, is going to let me down. I position my remaining rats on my right to set up a network of interlocking tackle zones as a protective screen against movement to outflank my line with the ball and secure an unimpeded axis of advance to the end zone. Where the punk-assed wannabe Redtooth failed, Cheese Thief, who has already proven his rathood today by scoring, demonstrates who is the pimp around here by setting this hoe on her baking trays. Though as a weaker player needing 2 assists for a double-die block. Darkenral proceeds cautiously and tactically. He works to clear some space for his receivers, as with this blitz. The more players he can keep free from my zones, and hence from both the chance of being blocked in my turn, and from modifiers for receiving the ball, the greater their power as a diversion to draw away my strength when I inevitably try to remark them. Thus he creates more attacking opportunities to choose from. I have to react to his movements, but can never defend every point against a fast-moving race like Wood Elves. Eventually, he will find a weak point. To ensure the security of the ball, he also establishes a classic 5-man cage formation. The other children all turn to stare at the new boy's horrible orange leg rings, which presumably his mum made him wear to school. Ha ha, you've got orange rings around your legs, orange leg ring boy. Movement of 7, like one of my rats. That's pretty quick for a Blood Bowl player in general, but still the slowest player on this particular field. Agility of 4, like every elf, combined with his pass skill means he's as good as my thrower would be at making passes, even if he'd already leveled up and gained the accurate skill. In the final move of the turn, the lineman Zedicus attempts to get clear of his tackle zones, and suffers the 1 in 6 lottery of crushing humiliation. His girlfriend is watching this from the stands, by the way. And here are some of my players' girlfriends, or soon to be, if the lascivious Ratmen have their way. Whether we qualify for the SBB tournament or no, here is the real prize for whoever wins. The Wood Elf cheerleading squad. Just look at the one in the middle. She's special.
Hi, Tiger.
Hi. Oh dear, I'm in trouble. I recognize this feeling. I'm in love. I know she feels the same way.
Take my lips, they belong to you.
I think what I like about her best is her long pretty hair, but then I hadn't seen the Skaven cheerleaders yet. Whoa! I admit that on the hair it's an exchange of quality for quantity, but that evens out, right? So, my turn, and more of the same for me. The Wood Elves still have the initiative, so I focus on remarking the most dangerous looking receivers, and representing my defensive screen. Attacking the cage doesn't seem too smart. I could knock one corner away, conceivably, and put zones on the thrower, but it would be too easy for him to just hand off away and exploit whatever gap I'd created in my screen with the players I'd used. I also attack the most dangerous. This catcher out in the open, a mere strength 2 player whom Redtooth needs to use up another of my precious rerolls in order to take down. Well done, Redtooth. You still don't get any cheese, but I won't sell you as food to the local pet store's snake department yet. Some additional blocks against other receivers are made, but alarmingly failed to knock either of them down. The Wood Elves are going to begin turn 7 in a pretty coherent position. It could be possible to score on this turn, but if they do that, I might 2-turn touchdown in reply before the second half, so it is strategically prudent to delay. The Deadly Dancers elect to penetrate through my right and move to peel aside my position there. The cage is pushed forward in its entirety, in readiness for the final breakthrough in turn 8. The ball carrier moving together with his guards across the scrimmage line. First down and 10. With his next moves, Darkenral sets about mobbing my rightmost players, flooding the area with his influence, and moving his own players away from my left where they have served their diversionary purpose, and can now be used to lever a gap between my team and the cage, making it as hard as possible for me to interfere with his schemes on my next turn. Only with his final move does an otherwise perfect play come unstuck, as Warren, the last of these levering players, overreaches himself on a go-for-it roll, thus. It's no more practical to attack the cage now than it was last move, so turn 7 represents Cluny's army's final opportunity to make things as difficult for the Wood Elves to score as they can. Redeploy from my left to the right to present obstacles to the opponent's advance. Knock down the only player who could force a way open on the sideline. Keep receivers heavily marked to make it harder for them to catch the ball. Construct a dense web of tackle zones, which will have to be traversed by whoever makes a break for the end zone. Having 4 players with a speed of 9 like gutter runners makes my options for this more practical. There's the referee for the match, observing our bloody-minded chicanery. Like Quasimodo, brave but unbearably hideous.
I spoke to the ref earlier on and he says he'll be looking to keep a low profile.
Which is fair enough. A face only a mother could love, if he in fact has a mother, and if you could in fact call that a face. With the last move I plug the remaining gap in the line and futilely try to bring down the elf closest to scoring. I've done the best I can. Now we will have to see who has the favour of Nuffle and the other gods of the dice to whom gamers pray. I knew I should have sacrificed Splat as an offering.
Hey, screw you, asshole!
And screw you too, buddy. Screw you too. And now, click to continue on to the next part of the match report, when we see who is the stronger in the eternal conflict that has rung down through the ages between rat and elf.